Record. All right, so we're gonna get started. I'm gonna share my screen
Was that it broke off into
here.
I just think right before I came pulling in here.
Okay. Okay, so thank you so much again for coming to hear about the Ward 8 grant information session. As I said, my name is Daisha Purnell. I'm joined by Taryn Gress, and we are with Neighborhood Connections. And we're so excited to talk more about this. So, just a quick overview of our agenda. We'll talk about, we went over our introductions. We'll talk about how we got here. Oopsies. We'll talk about the purpose of these grants and quick facts about them. We'll go over eligibility, and then we'll talk about website navigation. So, to go over how we got here, I'm going to turn it over to Taryn, and she can lead us through this part.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. As Daisha said, I'm Taryn Gress, and I am also with Neighbor Connections and supporting all the components of the work we are doing in the new Ward 8. That includes some of downtown, Asiatown, Midtown, Huff, St. Clair Superior, and some of Glenville. And so we got here through the pathway of connections with the councilwoman. Some of you may know, and if you don't know, we are a grassroots grants organization and community building organization. We've been doing the grassroots grant making since 2003. It was incubated in the Cleveland Foundation, and we're still co-located with the Cleveland Foundation, though we're a separate entity from them. And so we do, there's Neighbor Up action grants that happen 2 times a year. And so knowing that we had a history of grassroots grant making, the councilwoman had the idea to get funds out into the community for people to do projects in their community more quickly. And so she talked with us about partnering to make that happen. She developed legislation. That legislation was passed, and now we have a contract with the city to do grassroots grant making in the new Ward 8 and community building along with the grassroots grant making. And so we have a pot of money to distribute in the community over the next 12 months or so. And just the purpose of the grants, similar to our Neighbor Up action grants, the purpose of the grants in Ward 8 is to help grow an environment where residents and other stakeholders in Ward 8 can more easily connect to one another and build trust and build on the strengths that exist in the community. The civic groups, congregations, community-based organizations and institutions, the local businesses, public spaces, and celebrate the history and culture of the neighborhoods. These are some quick facts about the grants. The grants, you can apply for a project that is in one of the 3 focus areas that are neighboring and safety, preserving neighborhood culture, and wealth building. Currently, you can only be funded 1 time through these funds. We have about $120,000 to distribute, and you can apply for a grant that's between $500 and $7,500. Groups or organizations can only submit 1 proposal at a time, and you have 1 year to use the funds.
Are there any questions yet on anything that we've talked about so far?
I have a quick question. Will the deck and/or directions in terms of funding be shared after the meeting has concluded? Because these are great facts, but should I be taking screenshots? Just a quick question of the directives.
You can feel free to take screenshots. This meeting is being recorded, and the meeting recording will go onto our website. So you'll be able to look back in that way on all this information.
And the these facts are also on our webpage, and they're also in the grants portal. So our webpage is neighborupcle.org, and there's a button on the top right that Daisha will show you in a little bit, but there's a button there that says apply for a grant. When you go there, it gives these facts. And then also when you get to the grants portal where you actually input the information, this information is also there. So we can share this information we're sharing right now, but it also exists in other places. So you don't have to scribble as we're talking.
Thank you so much.
Or take screenshots, whatever you need to do. We'll provide this information elsewhere along the way.
Nicole, you have a question?
Oh, yes. Will there be an area in which we'll break down the three categories? What projects will be considered to be part of neighboring? Bam, hit me.
That is our next slide.
Go ahead, girl. The professional you are. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Did one more person have a question before we move forward?
Yes, I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you said you have three issue focus, and you said neighboring and safety. Is it safety of the neighborhood, or is it neighboring and then safety? So is that four, just for clarification, or is it safety of the neighborhood, or is it neighboring, like doing something with my neighbors, and then it's safety for safety of the neighborhood?
So there's three issue focuses. Neighboring and safety is just one issue focus. So whatever that looks like to you, we'll go over the specifics in the next slide about
Okay.
some examples. But so your project can go to either one of those. It doesn't have to be both, but that's just one of the issue focuses. So you could have a project that focuses on safety and take it under neighboring and safety. You could have a project that focuses on neighboring and put it under neighboring and safety. Those are
Okay,
just
got you.
together. Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll move forward and we'll be free to take more questions as we go forward as well.
There was just one question in the chat. Oh, Valerie, did you want to say it out loud?
Hey, real quick.
I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. I thought I was on mute.
That's okay.
We had two separate calls happening in this room. I was just wondering if projects needed to be a brand new project to the neighborhood, or if there's something that's already happening that fits within these, if you could apply to maintain what you've already started.
You can definitely apply. So it doesn't have to be a brand new project. We'll go over eligibility in just a little bit. So you have to fit in the categories of eligibility, but it does not have to be brand new. All right, let's move forward.
So neighboring and safety is anything that is dealing with safety and being a good neighbor. And so thinking about how when we know our neighbors, we're connected to our neighbors, that also promote safety, and things that promote safety are benefiting our neighbors. So that it's a kind of a broad interpretation of neighboring and safety. So that could include block parties where you're bringing people together in a positive way. It could be giving out food in the community. Again, you're providing a service within nutrition, and also probably connecting with people. And we know, when people have their basic needs taken care of, they're a lot more likely to feel secure, and not as likely to perhaps, engage in things that are less safe, things that are around improving spaces. So it might be a pocket park that exists and you want to do something to improve it there, reimagining vacant land. So those are the type, and those are just examples in the bullet points, but anything that's related to connecting with people, connecting with neighbors, and thinking about how that can promote safety by those connections. Preserving neighborhood culture is really anything to do with culture in Ward 8. So that is different forms of arts and culture, music, painting, theater, photography, murals, urban farms, history projects, programs kind of celebrating the history of the neighborhood or different components of history that are in the neighborhood or people are interested in learning about in the neighborhood. Again, a pretty broad interpretation of kind of what preserving neighborhood culture is. And then wealth building is anything that supports pathways to building wealth. So programming around financial literacy, entrepreneurship training, resident-led cooperatives or skill sharing or building specific skills that may lead to wealth building or the opportunity to build wealth in the future. So even things like youth programming and having people learn about different pathways and careers, anything that's in that realm we'd consider wealth building. And just all of these really, we're naming the issue areas, but the main thing that's really important is that you're connecting with people in the community and doing something positive for the community. And we think that really, most things would fit into one of these categories if that's where you're coming from in your project.
Above freezing, some lower and into the 40s for most areas.
All right. Thank you so much, Taryn, for going over all these pieces with us. Does anyone have any questions before we move forward to eligibility? All right, let's talk about eligibility. Thank you so much, Taryn, for joining us. If you do need Taryn, we will have her email at the end so you can reach out to her with any questions or anything that you may have. Thank you, Taryn. So now we're going to talk about eligibility. So I'm going to try to work past all of the random pop-ups that are on my screen because of Zoom. To be eligible, you must live, work, or worship in Ward 8. Your request, so your application must be focused on a specific project or program. Community groups can apply, so you don't have to be a 501c3 to apply. So that's neighbors supporting neighbors, street clubs, neighborhood associations, artist groups, mutual aid, civic groups, things like that. All of that would be allowed to apply for. If you do not have a 501c3, you will need a fiscal sponsor. And then small nonprofits and small faith-based organizations are both also eligible to apply. And by small, we mean organizations with 3 or less paid employees and a budget of $250,000 or less. So that's what we consider small nonprofit organizations and small faith-based organizations. Nicole, you have a question?
There are several of us here that are representing our faith-based organization. Now, churches, for you, are they declared to be 501c3 as a nonprofit on their own, standing where we won't need a fiscal agent?
Do you have a 501c3?
I'm not sure, but usually under the IRS code, churches are eligible for 501c3. I don't think we have our status like with the government for sure.
Sure.
So if we don't have that status,
So I know that people with 501c3s don't need a fiscal sponsor. I also know that from what you're talking about, from how I understand it, churches with physical locations also don't need a fiscal sponsor, and they can be fiscal sponsors. But for sure, that's something in your specific case, if you have more questions about it or if we need to figure it out, that is something we can talk more about.
thank you very much.
For sure. I'm gonna go on to ineligible. So, you cannot use the funds for-profit entities, fundraising events, government agencies or departments, single businesses, endowment funds, capital campaigns. You cannot apply for these funds as an individual. You must apply with at least 2 unrelated people, both to yourself and to each other. And large nonprofits and large faith-based organizations are not are not, they are ineligible. Political groups are ineligible. And then religious organizations applying for religious purposes are also ineligible. So you can apply as a small religious organization, but the project that you're doing has to be, it can't just be the people who attend your church that can benefit from the funds. It has to be open to the public for you to be able to apply for these funds. Are there any questions on any of this?
I want to clarify to Nicole, this is Kim at Dunham. Yes, we hold that 501c status.
Sounds great.
I did have a question on the large nonprofit. So anything over $250,000 is not eligible?
Yes, if your
Okay.
annual budget is over $250,000, you're not eligible.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions? All right, we'll move forward then. So now we're going to go into.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Sounds good.
Is it okay to work on different groups with different groups of people? Let's say we have one group working on as a Kwanzaa committee,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's another group working on developing an after-school program.
Mm-hmm.
And so that wouldn't be a problem, would it? You're helping with, I think, as a network weaver, I should be involved in helping people with their projects. I think I've answered my own question.
Yeah, so that's not a problem at all.
Okay.
These are community grants, and so it's most powerful when we work together in
Sure.
community.
Okay.
One thing though is that you cannot be on two applications at a time. So if both of those groups are applying for grant funds from us, it has to be six people. So 3 people on one grant and 3 people on another. It cannot be 3 people on 2 grants or even 4. It has to be different people on each of those grants.
Okay.
Nicole, you have a question?
Yes, just when I looked at eligibility, are matching funds a requirement?
Matching funds are a requirement. We're going to talk about that. We'll get to
Okay, I'll
that
wait for you to get
piece
there.
in just
Thank
a
you.
little bit. For
Okay.
sure. And we'll go into it and what that looks like and all that good stuff. But just really fast, it doesn't have to be money. It can be like efforts and stuff. So we'll talk about what that looks like.
Thank you.
So we'll go into navigating the website. So our website is neighborupcle.org. That is how you'll get to the grants. So if Zoom was more of my friend, I could put that in the chat, but maybe I can.
I got it, Jason.
Perfect. Thank you. neighborupcle.org. That is how you'll be able to access these grants. So you'll put that at the top, and then there's 2 places where you can get to where you're trying to go, which is to look at the grants. So you can click on the blue button in the top right-hand corner that says apply for a grant. Or you can choose the apply for Neighbor Up orange button. That's a little bit further down. Both of those will take you to the same place. Okay. And the place that'll take you to is this page. It's talking about Ward 8 grants. So you can find answers to some of the things we talked about in those little down arrows there. More information, of course, is in the portal. But that'll answer some of your questions. And then in order to get to the application, you'll click this blue button that says apply. The Zoom thing is blocking it for me again. But yeah, apply for Ward 8 grants. That's what you'll click on this page. After clicking that, it'll take you to this page. So this is this is where you'll fill out the application. If you've gotten grants from us before, you will use the same email address that you've used for other grants. For like our main grant rounds, you'll use your same login information that you have for that. If you've forgotten your password, there's a little button right there for you to push to get a password change. If this is your first time ever getting a grant through Neighborhood Connections, you'll push create a new account, and that'll take you through the process of doing that. Also, if you would like to see the website in different languages, at the top, you'll be able to select a language here, and there's many, many languages there that you will be able to choose from. So that is also an option if you're interested in it. Now, the next page that we're going to go to, I have to pull up on my screen for you to see because we're going to go through it together. So give me 1 second, and I will reshare my screen. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, sounds good. So, at the top, if you've filled out for applications from us before, it'll have your organization name up here. As you can see, my organization is called Not Daisha Purnell's Testing Organization. That's very official. So this is what it'll look like, what you'll see. You'll go to the top here and click apply. And then once you click that, all the information, you'll be here and ready to apply. So it tells you all the information you need here. It talks about the neighborhoods that you need to be in to be able to apply for this grant. You can click here to check to see if you're in the footprint. This takes you to the 2026 Find My Ward page. So you'll be able to go through it and put in your address to see if you are in the ward. I'll show really fast. This is the overview of the Ward 8's new boundaries. It's not the friendliest page to me, so it's a little hard to like show, but this is Ward 8. So we're gonna go back to the other page. That's one part. As we mentioned, we have a total of $120,000 to distribute. Proposals must be in those 3 buckets to apply. And then as far as this part, so proposals will be reviewed a few weeks after you submit, and decisions will be made by the grant making committee no later than 60 days after the end of the month that you apply, right? So for example, if you apply April 15th, then you'll be able to hear from us within 60 days after April 30th. So that's kind of how we're doing it. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. That's my email. I'll also pull that up again at the end so you can see it for sure. So I'm gonna push apply. Apply. This is the application. This is what it looks like. So here I'm gonna put my group or organization name. If I've applied for Neighborhood Connections grants before, I'm gonna put the organization that I'm with is gonna be on this part. If I haven't applied before, I need to put my organization name in there. If you are just like a group of residents, you can create a name that you'll use for this grant and for future grants with Neighborhood Connections, right? So let's say I'm just a resident, so I don't have an organization name. So I'm just gonna make up a name. I'm gonna say that I'm with the residents of St. Clair Superior, right? And then as you scroll down, You'll also need to create a project name. So an organization name is the name that follows you through all of the grant requests that you give to Neighborhood Connections. And then your project name is the name that goes directly to what this project is, right? So my organization name might be Residents of St. Clair Superior. My project name would be 2026 Block Club or 2026 Block Party, whatever I'm doing with these specific funds. The amount requested for the proposal, again, between $500 and $7,500. The contact person for this request, so that will most likely be you filling out the grant. You'll put in your information, your address, your zip code, your email. You also put your phone number here. So I do recommend if you're putting a phone number in here, this is the phone number and the email that the grant making committee will use to get in touch with you to set up interviews, to ask questions, all of that stuff. So I would recommend not putting an organization phone number or an organizational email, and I would put your personal email or phone number. Excuse me. That way you can make sure you're not missing any of the information that comes. Yes, and then you'll talk about what your relationship to Ward 8 is. And you'll talk about what skills you're bringing to this project or program. As was stated, you will need to have 2 unrelated to you or to each other team members also on this application. So you'll put the same information in for them, their address, their phone number, their email, their relationship to Ward 8, and the skills that they're contributing, and you'll do that for both team members. Any questions so far about what we've talked about? All right, I'm gonna move us forward then.
I have a question. I'm sorry. Real
absolutely.
quick. Good evening. Let me ask you a question real quick. In regards to the extra people that you have to put on there.
Mm-hmm.
While sitting on Capitol Hill, the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was
Yeah.
grilled.
Does it have to be 2? Or is that something new? Does it have to be 2?
It has to be 2 additional people other than you. That's something we've been doing at Neighborhood Connections with our other grants as well. So you can't apply as an individual. You have to apply with people. So it has to be you and 2 other people.
Okay, so would it be fair to say for instance, okay, so I'm working it with I do have one other person, but I'm not 501c3. Could that be my fiscal agent I could put down as the 3rd person or no?
The 2 other people on your team should be people that you are working with to make the project happen. So
okay.
it should be people that if you're sick, you can call on to help you do the work.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
sounds good.
I
Sounds
get it.
good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thank you.
That was a great question. Any other questions? Sorry, it's hard for me to check chat. Okay, let's move forward. Group or organization history. So if you and your group or your organization have been working together for a while, you'll put that in there. You'll talk about what that's looked like. If you haven't been working with if it's a new organization or it's you and a group of residents together, you can say this will be the first thing that we're doing together. So you can put that there. Group or organizational annual budget. So you will, if you're an organization, of course, you'll put what your annual budget is. Of course, we said you are not eligible if your annual budget is more than $250,000. If it is just a group of residents getting together, you don't have an annual budget, you just put 0 there. So next, we're going to talk about the project summary. Yeah, Nicole, you have a question?
Quick question. If we are a congregation, that would be basically the history of what our church would be, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
For sure.
I do have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm looking at they have three different themes, but do we have to just do one program? Couldn't we do three programs under our project?
Okay, so you're talking about we have the three different issue focuses, right?
We
Is that
have
what
three
you're talking
different
about?
themes, yes. And couldn't we do under our project, couldn't it have three different programs under one project?
Sure. So under one project, you can have more than one thing that you're doing. You just want to
Okay,
be clear
okay,
about how you plan to make it happen and the
okay,
funds to make all of that happen. And again, so if you're an organization, you can only apply once. So you'd all apply for you put all of it under one grant. Um, yeah. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
Okay. Sounds good. And if you do have anything else I can clear up, don't hesitate to reach out to me and I'm happy to
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
Just one addition to if they're happening in different time frames, we're about to get to that part too. So if something happens in March and then it's going to have something different is in July and then something different in December, that would be a good way of describing how they're different or they happen on different days of the week. Just trying to give
Okay,
a sense of what
I
the
see.
different things are and when they're happening and who might be involved.
Okay.
Latoni, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. So if you have a neighbor-led based project, and say if the three people on your committee, two of them live in the neighborhood and one of them doesn't, do all three have to live in the neighborhood, or could majority live in the neighborhood?
So it's okay if all three of your neighbors don't live in the neighborhood. Of course, the gold standard, right? So like it would be amazing if all three of the people lived in the neighborhood, but it's okay if all three of them don't live in the neighborhood. We do want to see some sort of community connection in because you'll fill out their relationship to the neighborhood. We want to see some sort of relationship to the
Right.
neighborhood, but they don't have to live in the neighborhood
Okay, got you. Thank you.
for sure. All right. Please continue to raise your hands to stop me when you have questions. All that's good. I'm gonna move us forward for now and then just continue to ask your questions as they come up. We're gonna go into project summary and project description now. So these two categories. So in your project description, you're gonna tell us all about your program, how you want to do it, why it's important to you, all that good juicy stuff you'll put into your project description. And your project summary, that is a quick 1 to 2 sentences about what you're trying to do with these funds. So that helps the grant making committee to have a good understanding, like a good brief overview of what you're trying to do without losing it in all the words sometimes that comes along with the longer descriptions, especially when you have a lot of applications that you're looking at once. The project summary, being clear in your project summary about what you would like to do with the funds is very helpful. So that's what these two pieces are. So we have the project summary, a very simple, brief overview, and then the project description where you're going as deep into the nitty-gritty as you want to go into it. Okay. Thank you, Taryn. Thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you soon. Building relationships or belonging in Ward 8. So at this part, you'll talk about how your project builds relationships or a sense of belonging in the community. You'll speak about that here. Issue focuses, as we talked about, Your project has to fall under one of these to be eligible. It could be more than one, like your project might be talking about preserving neighborhood culture and wealth building, but you'll just pick whichever one it's mostly of, just because you have to pick one, right? So you'll do that. And then again, you'll pick the neighborhood. You'll be able to check and see if you fall in the footprint. And then your reach, you'll talk about how many people you expect to reach in Ward 8. You'll put that there. The location, you'll tell us where the project is being held. As we talked about, it's okay if not all of your teammates live in the neighborhood, but your project does have to be taking place in the neighborhood because it needs to benefit Ward 8. So here you'll put the location of your project. We ask you to be as specific as possible. So if you have an address with a zip code, we ask you to put that in there, just to be specific about where you plan to have it. Partnerships and collaboration. So we know that when it comes to building community and weaving our networks together, it doesn't happen when we're working alone. So in this part, you'll talk about other organizations, other groups, other people that you're working with on this project to make the project a success. And then there's a link here that goes into the 6 categories in your neighborhood that partnerships could look like. That's a clickable link that you'll be able to go to if you're interested in seeing that page. Project timeline. So this is what Taryn was talking about a little bit ago about the if you're doing multiple things in your projects, in your project, you'll want to list that out here. The project timeline helps the grant making committee to see how you plan to make your project happen. So if you are having a Black party, if you are gathering neighbors together to do something together, if you're doing some sort of like oral history project, any project that you're doing, you have to start somewhere, right? It doesn't all just pop up. So creating a timeline helps us to see that you've thought about the steps that need to go into making this project a success, and you've put it all together, and it's feasible for you to do these things in this time. So that's what the timeline helps us to think about and to see. You'll upload your budget here. We'll go into budget in just a second. There's just a few more questions on the application that we'll talk about first. Excuse me. So this is talking about a final report. You have the option to either submit a written final report or to submit a final report on call with a Neighborhood Connection staff person. Either way, you do have to do one of these two things as a final report. With both of them, you will need to include also a financial report about how you spent the funds. If you're not a 501c3, you will need a fiscal sponsor, and your fiscal sponsor is the one who will be giving this financial report because they'll be the ones in charge of the funds. But that's something that you will have to do. So you'll either choose to submit a written report or you'll choose to talk with a Neighborhood Connection staff person. If you're a registered nonprofit, you'll put your EIN here. If you need a fiscal sponsor, you'll put the fiscal sponsor's information here. If you do not have a fiscal sponsor currently, we do not want that to stop you from applying. So if you don't have a fiscal sponsor at the time you apply, you can put need a fiscal sponsor into the organization name of fiscal sponsor. You can put that there. I will tell you that Neighborhood Connections does not provide fiscal sponsors. So we just want you to be able to apply, and then we do give suggestions about where you may be able to find fiscal sponsors. Like we know CDCs like Midtown and Famicos have done fiscal sponsorships before, as well as like churches can be fiscal sponsors. So we'll give you ideas of places you can look for fiscals. So if you don't have a fiscal currently, that shouldn't stop you from applying, but it's also a good idea to be looking for a fiscal sponsor, maybe while you're waiting to see if you'll get the funds. Any
Question about
questions? Mhm.
fiscal sponsorship. So if I'm representing Graffiti Heart and I'm thinking about some, potential projects, but would it we could potentially also be a fiscal sponsor. I personally have a lot of experience with serving as a fiscal sponsor, but would that preclude us from applying for a grant ourselves? Or like, can you be a fiscal sponsor and get a grant?
You can be a fiscal sponsor and get a grant.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Thank you. We appreciate. Yeah, if you are willing to be in that, to be a fiscal, Valerie, if you could reach out to me just so I can, if you could email
Absolutely.
me and we can talk
Definitely.
more about having you as an option for people, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so you'll also include a letter from your fiscal sponsor saying that they agree to do that. If you have any support letters, you can include that here. And then there's 2 spots for additional uploads. Most people, if they've done this before, they put like pictures of things that they've done before in these spots, stuff like that. So that's what the application looks like. Now we will go into the budget. So I'm going to open it. You'll be able to open it straight from the application. I'm going to open it and then I'm going to reshare my screen here so you can see it. Share my screen. Okay, you guys should be able to see my screen. So this is the budget form. So when you are putting in your budget, we do ask you to put it in this form. Okay, so in the green on the left-hand side, this is the money that you're asking Neighborhood Connections for. On the right-hand side in the yellow, that is your match. So hold on one second. So we do ask for you to have a match. We do ask for you to have a match. With our other grant, we ask for you to match what you're asking for at 100%. And this one, we're asking you to match at 50%. So if you're asking us for $5,000, we ask that you match us with $2,500 at least. Okay. So it doesn't have to be money. It can be efforts, and we'll see that as we go through this budget. Okay, so they're asking $2,200 for food, as what they're asking from Neighborhood Connections, and then in their grant match, they're saying that it's $200 because desserts are made by and bought by the organizing committee. Under equipment that lasts longer than the project, they're asking for $54 for easels. And then as a match, they have $340 because Joe Smith on the organizing committee is lending us his projector and laptop to show PowerPoints at each dialogue. To rent a laptop and a projector at each session would cost $85 over this amount of time. So that's a $340 match because they don't have to rent a laptop and a projector to do this. So that's a match. Rental space, they're asking Neighborhood Connections for $800 in rental space, but they have a match of $200 because the congregation is discounting the cost of the hall rental by $50 for each of the dialogues. So that's also a match because they're finding discounts in places so they don't have to spend as much as they would. Personnel, they're asking Neighborhood Connections for $400. But their match is $6,000 because the organizing committee of 8 people are putting in 40 hours each. 10 hours per dialogue to plan the host, so $15 an hour is how they got to those numbers. So when you are applying for neighborhood connections grants, um, you the amount that you're asking for personnel has to be less than 50% of your total ask. And so because of that, if you're asked for money, or if you're asked to pay personnel would be more of that, you will put that as a match, any like additional money that you were looking for, because you still would get paid. Or you could say like, I usually charge like $100 to do this thing, but I'm doing this thing for $50. So that's $50 in match because it's less. Nicole, you have a question?
It's a two-parted question. One, you're on personnel and volunteers, and it kind of relates to in the same category. So you said personnel has to be, you said less than 50% of the request or match
Less than 50% of the request.
of
So if
request.
you're asking Neighborhood Connections for $5,000, you can only be asking $24.99 of personnel.
Okay. Now, I notice here that it says for volunteer call for using and they put in $15 an hour. Can we use what the national cost of what for per hour for volunteers, or is that the max, the $15? Because there's a national that's more than 15. Just
What's
curious.
what's the national, do you know?
I know it's more than 15. It's more like close to 20 something.
Okay. If it's you can put what the national average for volunteers is.
We would just need to include that in our summary stating that where our source came from, correct?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions on this part?
I have a question, but it's not related to this part. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know you did mention having letters of support. Can someone from from like your committee be able to give a letter of support if they have their own personal business?
If I would say, so letters of support are not required. I want to say that. And then if so there has to be 3 team members on each for each grant. I would say that the 3 team members would not offer letters of support because they're on the team. But other people could offer letters of support, and they also aren't a mandatory thing that you have to do.
Okay, thank you.
For sure. Any other questions about the budget, about anything else that we've talked about?
Can you scroll so we can see all the categories I'm seeing? Is it just the 8? Okay. Okay, so transportation can be factored in there. Okay. Meaning if we can even put in as matching if someone was going to allow us to use their pickup truck or something to support that.
You absolutely can put that in as a match.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions? All right. Well, that concludes our presentation for today. Thank you so much for being here. On the screen, I have my email. Again, I'm Daisha. I also have Taryn's email on the screen. And also our website. So neighborupclee.org. That is how you will be able to reach us if you need anything. Yeah, and thank you for coming. Latoni, you have a question?
Yeah.
Yes, I want to know when would this open up? When would the applications open up?
So the application opened up on Monday. So
Okay.
you are free to apply today.